Coming up next, I interview my friend Tim Timmons, who came down with terminal cancer 13 years ago. They said that this cancer would take his life in 5 years, and here he is 13 years later, singing for us and meeting with us. Tim decided back then that he wasn't going to allow cancer to destroy his life or even define his life. In fact, in some weird way, cancer actually led him closer to Jesus. You'll find out in his interview that it actually caused him to know Jesus in a deeper, fuller, and richer way by being totally immersed in the kingdom of God.
As many of you know, in 2001, I was diagnosed with an incurable cancer. They gave me 5 years to live at that point. But I'm pretty clear about the fact that I'm not defined by cancer. That does not define me. They say that I've got 4 tumors on my liver at the moment, and that the way that it'll take me is that it's always wearing out my heart. That's kind of what it does. But the question I keep coming back to is, what does God say about this? Like, what's His response to this? Who holds the outcome of my journey? Who holds the outcome of your story? The outcome of me not being able to be at both my daughter's weddings and walk them down the aisle and do the daddy dance with them. I can be brought to tears at any moment. And I think of my boys not being able to watch them grow up from boys to actually become men. Those things just haunt me. And in that, I have the opportunity to lean into perspective of the kingdom of God or the perspective of just my natural eye.
Tim, hi, we're so glad that you're here with us today. It's life, isn't it? You have all these amazing things in your life, your kids and your family and your music and wonderful blessings. And then you've got this like big health challenge that seems to be constantly just, plaguing probably every aspect of your life. It's a scary thing.
Yeah, I think it could be a plague. It's so interesting. I really, as I travel the country, I talk to people just in pain and in sorrow, whether it's cancer or they've just lost someone or going through a divorce or... And sorrow, just understand sorrow. And there's somewhere in there that Jesus keeps talking about joy in the midst of it all, like in spite of it all, as if like, he says, don't look through your life through the lens of circumstance. And I think I've looked, and I just see that most of us are looking through life through the lenses of circumstances instead of the lenses of the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And the more that we're doing that, I know joy like I've never known.
Yeah.
I really do. People used to kind of say to me like, oh, I'm so joyful, and maybe I had a really great quiet time, and I'm like, good for you. But I don't have that.
Yeah, sure.
I want it, like I'm trying to make it, but I didn't have it. And the more that we've just been looking at our lives outside of the lens of circumstance, we're saying God is God and I'm not, and He's good and I'm not, and I'm going to lean into Him or not.
Yeah, sure.
So,
what happened to you 6 years ago?
Yeah, 6 years ago, I was journaling like a good Christian boy should do, like doing my deal. And I just sensed, you're in the preface of the second book in the trilogy of your life. So preface of the second book in the trilogy of your life. And I thought, that is so dumb. Who makes that up, and calls that Jesus? And so I kind of just smiled, and I kept sensing it during the week, whatever that means to sense that. I have no... And I told my wife about it, and then the next weeks I got emails from all over the country of people saying, you don't know me, but God told me to tell you you're starting a new season. Follow Jesus and He'll walk with you. I was like, who's reading my journal? Somebody's reading my journal.
Yeah, sure.
And from there, a ton of things just started going wrong. Like relational stuff with friends just started going dive bombing. Where I was working, I lost favor where I was working. And it was just... we didn't understand any of these things. We found 4 new tumors at this point, and it was like, can we get a break here?
Yeah, sure.
I've done a lot of great work for you, Jesus. I've worked for you so hard. I'm actually exhausted. I've worked for you so much.
Yeah.
And this is what happens?
Sounds like the older son.
Yeah, totally. And it's taken, and that was about 6 years ago, and it began to hit me that it's not about me. It's not about me building my kingdom. I actually didn't even know what I was talking about when I wrote this prayer, only one standing on my record. I just knew this was the right prayer.
Yeah.
Would you let my kingdom fall so yours alone will be the only one standing? I've looked to man for my approval. I've built my confidence apart from you. Now all the walls are shaking.
Yeah.
So I turn my eyes to the only hope that I know. I surrender all of my plans, my outcomes. I give my body to you. I give everything, and I'm saying, you are God and I am not, and I'm going to lean in like that. So that's kind of what happened 6 years ago. And it was real gradual. It's not just, it wasn't this immediate thing where all of a sudden I've got more joy than I know what to do with. It's been this gradual piece of trying to abide, actually trying to literally do the only role that we have, according to Jesus, is just be a branch.
Yeah.
Holding on, connected to the vine.
Yeah.
And he'll give you nutrients. He's going to provide.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Father, he's going to actually prune parts.
Yeah.
Parts that do not feel good to be pruned. It's like you see a rose bush that's just been pruned all the way back, and it looks terrible. It looks dead and naked and bare.
Yeah, it looks like
and
a nub.
and we look like, oh, that's not beautiful. But it's the only way that's going to actually bear much fruit.
You were told, I think you said in the church today, you were told 13 years ago that you'd be dead in 5 years.
Yeah.
And so you've gotten, it's like, what I hear you saying is like, I'm living on borrowed time or something. Like I got some freebies.
Yeah.
And but
we all are. I mean, that's the silly thing. It's like, you know, when you're in a car and you almost get in an accident and you just get out of it. You just skate out of it. And you go, oh, I'm so grateful. You look at your kids, you go, man, man, I'm going to appreciate them more. And then 5 minutes later, you just forget.
Yeah.
The gift of cancer is perspective. It just is. And the gift of any calamity is the potential for perspective.
Yeah.
So I often am saying, because I know this, that cancer is not my story.
Yeah.
What a terrible story if cancer is my story, or if depression is my story, or if whatever. It's almost as if those things become our names.
Yeah, sure.
The more that I see that, I'm going, that cannot be my identity. It's perspective through these things. So
what is your identity then?
Well, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of the King, and I happen to actually be royalty in the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And even as I'm seeing, you know, the guy that cut me off today, I can look at him, right, that guy, dang it. What if that guy is actually a child of God?
Yeah.
It's just been so fun to kind of look and see myself and see other people in a different light.
Yeah.
And be freed up.
Tim, we're just so grateful that you were here today. You really encouraged our church. It was great to see all the energy you brought, and we're so glad you were here. So thanks for coming, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.